Now we move to the last one, which is about Edology. Edology, it means Edo ecology. The fact that we were in this state of sakoku, which means we are not able to do some dynamic trading with other countries, it also means that whatever that we need, it has to be all produced within our own land. And then also whatever that we have in terms of resource is the maximum that we can have. So this is why we will have to think of a system to self-sustain, and then this has led to the fact that Japan, and specifically focusing on Edo now, has this circular system whereby you have the production and also the consumption that are very much related to each other. So this is a diagram to show the relationship between the city area and the rural area. Again, going back to what Marx has mentioned, he was also mentioning about the fact that the capitalism can eventually lead to not only the exploitation of labor, but actually it can also lead to the exploitation of nature. And how come he say this is that whatever we consume in the city, we do not know the origin, and then therefore we might be exploiting the land of somewhere else. So this was his warning, and then he was saying that that would actually cause a lot of problem in terms of ecology. So this is why nowadays we need to think of how whatever the activities that we are in the city has some impact in the rural area, and then we need to think of this circular system so that somehow we are not over consuming the nature that exists in this rural area. So taking that into consideration, and then looking into this Edo area, Edo, the city area is this region here, and then right next to it you have the rural area, and this is around maybe less than 50 kilometers. So it's quite, in terms of relationship, it's quite approximate. And so what the Tama River and then the construction of the aqueduct has led to this establishment of the farmlands that are using this waterway in order to do their irrigation. So this waterway becomes an irrigation system for the agriculture that has been produced in this area. So this, whatever that has been produced in these farmlands, it will be directly related to be consumed for the people living in the city. So this is the kind of unique context of Tokyo, or like Edo, where usually you don't have the rural area right next to a city. You don't see this kind of relationship in other countries, but the fact that it was such a proximate location, and then because of this relationship that they had, which was quite directly related to one to another, it created a circular system. And this circular system can be understood in this diagram. So you have the city area, and then you have the rural area. The rural area is to produce food and all the materials, and then once it's been produced, using the road or using the canal system, it will be transported to the city area, and the people who are living in this city area, they will be consuming whatever that has been produced in the rural area. So then after consuming, what happens is that there will be human waste that has been produced. So the human waste will then be collected, and then it will go back to the rural area, and then it will be used as fertilizers. And so here you can see how this circular system has been kind of the circular system works in such a way where you are producing and consuming, and then somehow it's being reused in a different manner, but then again it will be contributing in the production and the consumption. So this is the kind of circular system that I'm talking about. Also, the design of the toilet is done in such a way so that the human waste can be collected very easily, and then also the waste collectors, they can just take the bucket and then they could be very easily be transported to the rural area. So this is an example of our clothes, a traditional clothes, which is kimono. Kimono is also designed in a way to have that concept behind of the circular system. So this is the image of kimono, and if you open up the kimono, it will look something like this. How it's been produced is that these kimonos, first you grow the cotton, and then from the cotton you get the thread, and then you will weave the thread, and then you will produce this roll. So then with this material you will cut the roll into pieces, and kimono is a very easy system to actually stitch them together. So each one of this is a piece of cloth. You cut them in the right length, and then you will just stitch them together in such a way like this. So it's quite simply made. Because of this simple way of making things, it also means that it's very easy to unthread them and then to reuse it in a different way. So once the kimono has been worn, let's say you wear it many times and it's kind of like worn out now, the thing that you can do is that you unthread them. Perhaps you want to make it into another design, so you produce a different design, maybe a vest or something like that. Or you might decide that it's too much, then you want to reuse it in some other way. So you reproduce different things from that. But it's very easy to do it because once you unthread them, it just becomes a long piece of cloth. The typical ones that they will use it from these kimono are the nappy for babies, and then also if you use the belt, you can use it. The belt is a bit more stronger, and so it's more appropriate to use it for the sandals, for example. Or if you want to use it and to restitch it into a small cloth, and then you can use it to wipe the tables and clean the house. So this is some of the ways to reuse the material, and then also you can also think of fixing it. So some of the businesses that were quite popular in Edo were the recycling shop, and then also the fixing craftsmen. So you will like umbrella, you can easily fix them. So you will ask them to these craftsmen, and then you can use it over and over again by fixing. But perhaps you don't want to use it anymore. Then you have also the option of the flea market. So from the Edo period, we have still now continuing in Setagaya area. There is a market called Boroichi, and then this Boroichi is originated during the Edo period. So the concept behind is that you have something that you already use many times, and then you don't want to use it anymore, but you don't want to throw them away. So you will be trading with other people who might want to have it. So it's a bit like the flea market. You actually sell your product that you have already used. The other option is that after using all of these things, and there is no other ways you can use it anymore, then the decision is that you will burn it. So after you burn it, it becomes ashes, and then so ashes, it can be used back, distributed, transported back to the rural area to be a fertilizer to produce the new cotton. So that is the kind of cycle that you can understand from just understanding the clothes, which is our kimono. The other option of using the ashes is going to this area, and the land reclamation can be done using the ashes. So by all these products, there are many ways to actually reuse it. You can fix it, you can reuse it, you can recycle it, and then also you can actually make from the ashes. The ashes are also not really waste anymore. It's some kind of value because it can be a fertilizer, and then also it can be used for land reclamation. So all of these things are being somehow fully utilized, and therefore the people in Edo, they did not consider the waste as waste, but they thought that waste was some kind of opportunity as well. Also, it created businesses. The ash collectors and then also the human waste collectors, they were making good business, and it was really necessary because like human waste, everyone will be producing every day, and then you will always have this business going on. So it does also create this circular system whereby not only the fact that the product has been rethought in a different aspect, but also it kind of creates a new opportunity or business for people. So this map here shows the topography of Tokyo. You have the Edo Castle here, and then you have the mountain area there, and this is Hibiya land reclamation area, so it's flat. And then if you see even more further to the east, you also see even more area that are flat. So how come they are flat? It's because this land reclamation using the ashes from the waste that has been produced by the people, they were filled to create the land in this area here. Coming to the conclusion, my understanding of the Edo circular system, which is also related to the urban system, can be perhaps understood through the word mottainai. So mottainai is one of these words that is very difficult to translate into English. So if I just give the description in terms of this dictionary, mottainai is a Japanese term conveying a sense of regret concerning waste. The expression mottainai can be uttered alone as an exclamation when something useful such as food or time is being wasted, meaning roughly water waste or don't waste. So this is the literal translation, this dictionary translation of mottainai. But this word actually has a bit more meaning to this, which can be understood from this formula that was given by the Kenyan environmentalist Wangari Maathai. So she said, so she came to Japan to see the city, and then she was quite fascinated with the concept of mottainai. And then, so with that, she rephrased it in this formula, whereby she's mentioning in behind the thinking of mottainai, it exists 3 environmental R's plus 1 R. So the 3 environmental R's are known to be reduce, reuse, recycle. This is the typical term that we understand from the 3 environmental R's, plus another R. So the last one I'm going to mention afterwards. But to understand the meaning behind the 3 environmental R's, I'm going to show this diagram. So behind the 3 environmental R's, how can we understand this in terms of the system is that first you have resource and the material. the first input that you have to consider is the reduction. So you do not overuse the materials, or you do not overuse the resources. So you only use the amounts that it's necessary for you. Then after the reduction, to the first step, which is reduce, you do the production process, which includes the manufacturing and then also the transportation. After the product has been produced, it goes to the people and then it will be consumed. So you have the process of consumption, and then through after this you will produce waste. So the second one is about reuse, which comes in this process here. So after you have produced the waste, this waste may not be a waste, therefore you might like to consume it again, or you might want to go back to this, reuse it again back in the production process. So this is the second step, which is about the reuse. Once the waste has been truly a waste, then it goes through a process. The final process, in the case of Edo, it will be burnt and then it will become ashes. Then the final process can actually be used for something else, such as land reclamation. However, the other process, after the process, it can actually go to do some other stuff. So recycling can also be done. So the third step here happens within the process of here, which is about the recycling. So this is a simple diagram to understand the steps of the reduce, reuse, and then the recycle. And all of this can be seen in the life in Edo. Also, I mentioned about, in my previous lecture, I mentioned about the Ise Shrine as an ultimate sustainable model. So Ise Shrine, it has a system of this Shikinen Sengu that happens in 20 years, every 20 years. The reason why, one of the reasons why it's 20 years is that they cut down the tree, and then this forest needs time to regenerate. So 20 years is some kind of a duration where the forest can actually be taking time to reproduce. So the Ise Shrine, there will be reconstructing every 20 years the new shrine, which means new material. But then the idea behind it is they would try to not overcut them. They will try to reduce the amount that they will cut down the trees. And then they will fully use all the materials. And then also, meanwhile, there is a process of producing different goods and things. And then after all this event happens in 20 years time, you will dismantle them. Or for the case of architecture, you might want to dismantle them, and then all the materials, it will be redistributed to other places and be reused in different parts of different architecture. Or some of the parts, it will be actually just be transported in its own original state, and then it will be again reused in different locations. It goes same for the other products that they are producing. It will be again every 20 years they will be producing the same thing, but after 20 years it will be again reused in different places. So in the Ise Shrine model, it also has these three environmental R's, which are first, it's about reducing, and then the other one, which is about reusing, and then also recycling. So all of these things can be seen also in this Ise Shrine. So going back to this last R, if I tell you the answer, it's respect. In order to understand respect, I think it relates to Shinto. So Shinto is our indigenous religion, and to understand this, we need to know the background behind it. So in Japan, we have a lot of natural disaster, and then this is why we tend to think that instead of fighting against the nature, we should be coexisting, and then human beings are just part of the nature. We are nothing different from the nature. So this leads to the fact that whatever that exists, we tend to think that there is a meaning behind anything of a beings. So this is why in the Kojiki, which is basically the fiction part of the history of Japan, we tend to signify them of any kind of being through God and deities. And I think this is the reason why we have this thinking of respect behind. Going back to this formula with the last R being the respect, and to understand this in relation to the background of Japan. So if you have, for example, a tsunami or earthquake, it can very much destroy the entire city in one night. So when this happens, you will see a tabula rasa condition where nothing exists anymore. And when this happens, and then you see something that remains from this destruction. So perhaps in the past you may not have realized any value to this, or maybe you didn't even know that it existed. But after all the destruction, and then everything is being destroyed, you have nothing remaining there. But if you have a condition where something has been remained from that, then you tend to think it will be very mottainai if you destroy them. So this is the concept behind, whereby you are respecting the fact that it still existed even after this huge catastrophe that has happened. So this is probably some kind of the kind of background that we have. Going back to the formula, the three environmental R's, which are reduce, reuse, and recycle, they are directly related to ecology. Yet, in the case of Edo, probably what was important was to have this respect. And in my opinion, respect was the ethos to drive the circular system to happen. So within the limited area that they had, with the limited resources, Edo, the people who lived in Edo, they had businesses, and then they also had the time and the money to enjoy the recreation. And this is because I feel that respect was there at all time, and respect was the fundamental ethos to drive the Edology. So this is the end of my lecture. Thank you for listening until the end. Bye bye.